Hello boys and girls, welcome back to Helen's class. Today we are going to learn meeting problems. Again, bring along your pen and notebook and start today's math journey with me. Before we get started, let's have a simple revision first. Do you still remember what we have learned last lesson about the three factors of traveling? Yes, what is the three factors? The three factors are distance, time, and speed. There are some relationship between distance, time, and speed, and there are some formulas here. You need to remember this formula. And we have also learned a new concept that is calling speed. Speed means the distance within a time unit. Okay, and now let's have a simple quiz first to test if you have really understand these three concepts. Let's read the question together. Eddie rides a bike and goes 13 km per hour. Complete the questions below. How many km can he ride for 3 hours? This question is very simple, right? What is the question asking about? Yes, asking about the distance. How many km? So, how can we calculate our distance? We can use the speed times time and equals to 39 km. Very good. So how about the second question? How many hours does he need to ride 65 km? What is the question asking about? Yes, it's asking about time. So if we need to calculate the time, what we need to do? We need to use the total distance divided by the speed. And this equals to 5 hours. Very good. Don't forget with your unit. Then how about the third question? Eddie uses 4 hours to ride 48 km. Will he be faster or slower than before? So what shall we know from this question? We need to calculate the speed of Eddie now, right? If we need to calculate the speed, we can use the total distance divided by our time, and this equals to 12. How about the unit? Yes, km per hour. So we know the new speed of Eddie and the old speed is 13 km per hour. So which one is faster? Yes, he is faster than before. So we need to write down because 12 km per hour is larger or smaller? Smaller than 13 km per hour. So our answer is he is faster than before. And we have completed with our revision here. Very well done. And today we are going to talk about some new knowledge. After we have solved our simple traveling problems, today we are going to solve some meeting problems. Let's see. Here is the table of contents. We are going to talk about the sum of distance and sum of speed and to familiarize our understanding in distance, speed, and time. For meeting problems, I would like to ask you, can only one person do meeting problems? No, that means if we are discussing about meeting problems, there are at least two persons. So this is talking about if two persons meet together, that is talking about our meeting problems. So let's start our content today. Derek again brings his chicken leg. Wow, he really loves chicken leg. And starts from place A. Helen starts from place B at the same time. That means Derek is here and Helen is here. Derek comes this way and Helen goes to this way. Okay, they goes towards each other. This is meaning going towards each other. They will meet at the middle point, and they are going to meet after 4 hours. And it is known that Derek goes 40 km per hour and Helen goes 60 km per hour. The question is asking us to find out the relationship of their distance. For the traveling problem, the most important thing is we need to draw a diagram before we do this type of question. So let us draw a diagram. We need a ruler here. For example, this is place A and this is place B. Alright? And how about Derek? Derek starts from here. This is Derek. Derek is going this way. And how about Helen? Helen starts from place B. So Helen is here and she goes this way. And you can see from the diagram, they will meet. Okay? They will meet when they travel towards each other. So Derek goes 40 km per hour and Helen goes 60 km per hour. And after drawing this diagram, what is the relationship between Derek's traveling distance and Helen's traveling distance? Which one is Derek's traveling distance? Yes, this one. And how about Helen's distance? Yes, this one. And how about the relationship between the distance between A and B? Yes, if we use Derek's distance plus Helen's distance, that is equals to the distance between A and B. So this is a very important concept in our traveling problems. If two persons face to face, they are walking towards each other, and the sum of their walking distance, that is the sum of this distance, the distance of Derek, and the sum of this distance, the distance of Helen, and we add them together will be the distance between the two places A and B. Okay, so we need to remember this. So until this step, does the question sound easy? And let's continue with this easy question. Now we are going to find the distance between A and B. We have already know that if we use the distance of Derek plus the distance of Helen equals to the total distance here, right? So we need to calculate their distance separately, and let's do it together. The distance of Derek is, how can we calculate? We know his speed is 40 km per hour, and we know the time is 4 hours. So we can just use 40 times 4 equals to 160 km. And how about the distance of Helen? Her speed is 60 km per hour and her time is also 4 hours. So what is her speed? Yes, 240 km. And how about the distance between A and B? And so we can know that we use 160 plus 240 to get the total distance of AB. Is it very easy? Lastly, we need to write down our answer. Don't forget, when you are doing word problems, you must write down your answer. Okay, and from this question, we can know that if I want to know the distance of AB, we can use the distance of Derek plus the distance of Helen, right? So let me transfer my calculation here. That is, I use 40 times 4. And the distance of Helen is 60 times 4. And I need to add them together. Observe the calculation carefully. We can find out there are same factors here. I don't know whether you have learned taking out the common factor. If in this calculation we can find out 4 is our common factor, so we can take out our common factor to get the answer. And in this calculation we can find the common factor. The common factor is 4. We can take out the common factor 4 and directly times 40 plus 60. We can also get the answer is 400 km. And let us observe the formula carefully. What is the meaning of 4? Yes, 4 is talking about the total time that they have used, right? So what is the meaning of 40 plus 60? Yes, this is talking about the speed of Derek plus the speed of Helen. That is the sum of speed. So we can know that if we need to find the total distance of A and B, we can just use the sum of speed of two persons, multiply the time we use. That is our total distance. So let's check it out to see whether it is correct. In this question, Derek and Helen traveled how many km for 1 hour in total? Who can tell me the answer very quickly? Yes, they traveled 100 km. How can you get this? Because it is known that Derek goes 40 km per hour and Helen goes 60 km per hour. So that means we can use 40 plus 60 to get 100 km for 1 hour. Okay, so now if we go for 1 hour, we can travel 100 km. And how about 2 hours? We can go 200 km. So 3 hours? 300 km. Then it is very obvious. How about 4 hours? Yes, 400 km. So we can know they can travel 400 km for 4 hours. Is our answer in the previous question correct? 400 km, 400 km, and also 400 km for 4 hours. Yes, so we can make our conclusion here. The sum of speed multiply the time, that is our sum of distance. Actually, in our midterm problems, it is also the same thinking. The distance is equals to the speed times our time, right? But this time, we need to consider a new concept, that is the sum of distance and the sum of speed. Okay, and I assume that you have understand this, and we'll move on to some multiple choice questions. In this question, car A runs 20 km per hour, car B runs 30 km per hour, and they meet each other after 2 hours. Then how many km in total can car A and car B run within 1 hour? Is this very simple question? Who can tell me the answer? Which one do you choose? Yes, you will choose D. How can you calculate it? You use 20 km per hour plus 30 km per hour to get the answer 50. Very good. So now if we need to calculate, car A runs 20 km per hour, car B runs 30 km per hour, and they meet each other after 2 hours. So how many km did car A and car B runs in total? How can we calculate? What is your answer? Yes, 100. How did you calculate? You use the 20 plus 30, that is for 1 hour, right? If we know for 1 hour is 50, so how about for 2 hours? We just multiply that by 2. So we can get the answer is 100. Very good. And then we can find out this formula if we need to find out the sum of speed that is equals to the speed of A plus the speed of B. We can draw a diagram to help us to think about the question. If A needs to go to this side and B needs to go to this side, right? So we need to find the total distance. So we can know the formula this. The sum of distance equals to the sum of speed, and when we are facing the traveling problems, we always draw diagram to help us to think. If there are different people appearing here, so we can draw them on different level. If there are different time appearing here, so we can use different color. And then we can move on to the next question. Derek brings his chicken leg starts from place A. Helen starts from place B. At the same time, they drive towards each other. That means like this. We always draw a diagram to see. Derek goes from place A to place B, and Helen goes from place B to place A. Helen wants to get the big chicken legs from Derek, and they drive towards each other. The distance between A and B is 100 km. It is known that Derek drives 3 km per hour, Helen drives 7 km per hour. So how many km can they drive in total for 1 hour? What is your answer? Yes, we can just use 3 plus 7 equals to 10 km, because 3 km per hour is talking about in 1 hour Derek drives 3 km, and also in 1 hour Helen drives 7 km. So 3 plus 7 equals to 10 km is the total distance that Helen and Derek drives in 1 hour. So for question 2, after how long will they meet? We can think about if Derek goes from place A to place B for 1 hour only, so he travels 3 km, and Helen goes from place B to place A, travels for 1 hour only, she goes 7 km. So that means within 1 hour, the distance between Derek and Helen has shortened by how much? Yes, has shortened by 10 km. So we can think about this. If in 1 hour our distance is shortened by 10 km, and in 2 hours our distance is shortened by 20 km. And now the total distance is 100 km. So if I need to know how many hours will they meet, instead I need to find there are how many 10 km in 100 km to get the answer. So which method shall I use? I use multiplication or division. Which one? Yes, we can use division. We can use 100 to divide 10, and to get our answer is 10 hours. Very good. For the word problems, don't forget always add your answer below to get full marks. And we always need to remember our units. So let's make a small conclusion here. We are finding the time in question 2, right? So if we need to find the time, we need to use the sum of distance, that is 100 km, right? To divide by the sum of speed, that is 10 km per hour here, right? So to get the final answer is our time, 10 hours. And this is the second formula that you need to remember today. Sum of distance divided by sum of speed to get the time. After knowing this, we can move on to more complicated questions. Car A and car B leave at the same time from two places, which is 360 km apart. They drive towards each other. And it is known that car A goes 48 km per hour, car B goes 72 km per hour. So after how long time will they meet? Before we do the question, what shall we do for our first step? Yes, we need to draw a diagram. Okay, there are two places. There is place A and place B. Okay? Then car A travels from place A. This is car A. Travels from place A, and car B travels from place B. Can I draw my diagram like this? Can I draw my diagram like this? No, because if we need to draw our diagram, we need to remember if there are different people, we need to draw them at different level to be clear. Okay, so we cannot draw our diagram like this. First, we draw car A, start from place A to the place B direction, and we draw car B starting from place B, go to this direction. Okay, and this is car B. So let's mark the numbers down. The two places is 360 km apart, and car A goes 48 km per hour, car B goes 72 km per hour. So we have completed our diagram, and let's see the question. After how long time will they meet? So what's the question asking about? Yes, the question is asking about time. Do anyone still remember how can we calculate the time in meeting questions that I have mentioned just now? Yes, if we need to calculate time, we need to use the sum of distance to divide it by the sum of speed. Okay, and we back to the question to find, are there any sum of distance? Can we find? Yes, actually the sum of distance is 360 km, right? So we can mark them down. And so how about the sum of speed? How can we find? Yes, we can use 48 km per hour, that is the speed of car A, plus 72 km per hour, that is the speed of car B, to get what is the answer? Yes, 120 km per hour. So the last step, what shall we do? Yes, we need to back to our formula here to get our answer. Use 360 to divide 120. So what is our answer? 3, and the unit is hours. Very good. So after all, we need to write down our answer. After 3 hours, they will meet together. And again, let's conclude this. If we need to calculate the time, we need to use the sum of distance to divide the sum of speed. Alright, and now is our challenging time. For this question, you can stop me and you think about it on your own. Okay, what is your answer? You trust A or you trust B? Let us do the question together to check it. Car A and car B live at the same point from two places 48 km apart. They drive towards each other. It is known that car A goes 2 km per hour, car B goes 4 km per hour. So after how many hours will they meet? And let's see the diagram. Remember, if we need to do the traveling problems, we always need to draw our diagram. So the total distance is 48, and for A, the speed of A is 2 km per hour, the speed of B is 4 km per hour. So if we need to calculate the time, what we need to know? We need to know the sum of distance to divide our sum of speed, right? Okay, then we need to find them one by one. What is our sum of distance? 48 km. Very good. And what is our sum of speed? How can we find our sum of speed? Yes, just add them together. That is 2 plus 4 equals to 6 km per hour. Okay, then we need to use the sum of distance. Then we need to use the sum of distance, that is 48, to divide 6. Why is this so? That means there are how many 6 km inside 48 km? And so we need to use division. And the answer is very obvious. It is 8. 8 hours. And the answer is B. If you have successfully completed this question, that means you are excellent. Okay, now let's see this question together. Derek brings his chicken leg and starts from place A. Helen starts from place B at the same time. They drive towards each other. The distance between A and B is 100 km, and it is known that they will meet after 4 hours, and the speed of Derek is 10 km per hour. It seems that all the information are given in the question, right? We know the total distance, we know the time, we also know the speed of Derek. So what is this question asking about? Let's see. How many km do they drive per hour altogether? If the total distance is 100 km and they have traveled for 4 hours equally, so that means for every hour, Helen and Derek goes this much, and for the next hour, Helen and Derek go this much, and for the next hour, there are total 4 hours. And for example, Helen goes this much and Derek goes this much. Helen goes this much and Derek goes this much. Can you understand this? This is talking about the total distance that Helen and Derek goes within 1 hour. Okay, and now we are going to find how much is this. Then how can we know this? How many pieces did I divide 100 km into? 4 pieces, because 4 hours. So how many km is this talking about? Yes, it is talking about, we can use 100 divided by 4 equals to 25 km per hour. This is talking about the total distance that Helen and Derek goes within 1 hour. We can know that this is the sum of our speed, because the distance that we traveled within a time unit is speed, right? And if we need to find out the sum of speed of 2 persons, we can just use the total distance, that is the sum of distance, divided by the time to get the sum of speed. So you need to remember this. And let's see what question 2 is asking about. Oh, and you must remember to write down your answer at the end. And question 2, how many km does Helen drive per hour? So this time the question is also asking about the speed of Helen. We have already know the sum of speed, and the sum of speed equals to the speed of Helen plus the speed of Derek, right? So we already know that the speed of Derek is how much? Is 10 km per hour. Then how about the Total speed? Yes, the total speed is 25 km per hour. So how about the speed of Helen? Yes, we can just use 25 minus 10 equals to 15 km per hour. And remember to write down your answer at the end. So we have completed this question together. Very well done. If we need to calculate the speed of only one person, we need to first find out the total speed of two persons, and we use the total speed minus the speed of another person to get what we want, okay? And we need to know if we need to find out the sum of speed, we can directly use the sum of distance divided by time. And let's move on to the very last question of today. Car A and car B live at the same point 360 km apart. Wow, quite far away. They drive towards each other. They meet after 6 hours. It is known that car A goes 24 km per hour. So what is the speed of car B? After you see this kind of question, maybe you will think, oh, it is so easy. If I need to find the speed of car B, first if I know the sum of the speed, and then we find out the speed of car A, and then we may know the speed of car B, right? So how can we find out the total speed? Do you still remember that I have mentioned in the previous question? Yes, we can use the total distance divided by the total time. And the answer is 60. And the unit km per hour, don't forget it. Because if we draw a diagram here, we need to divide 360 km into 6 parts. And for one part is talk about car A and car B, the total distance that car A and car B has traveled within 1 hour, right? So we need to divide 360 into 6 units, 6 hours, okay? So for 1 hour, we find out that is 60 km per hour. Now we know the total speed is 60 km per hour, and we know the speed of car A is 24 km per hour. Okay, so let's find the speed of car B. What is the speed of car B? Tell me your formula. Yes, 60 minus 24 equals to 36. Very good. And the unit is also km per hour because we are calculating about speed. Our formula, we need to make a simple conclusion here again. The sum of speed, how can we calculate? We need to use the sum of total distance divided by the time to get the sum of speed. Okay, and also we need to remember to write down our answer at the end of the question. And when you are doing the traveling problem, you need to draw a diagram. And if there are different people, you need to draw them at different level to be clear. And if there are different time, you need to draw them with different color. It will make you feel more clearly when you do this question, okay? So let's go to our summary page. And this summary is quite complicated, but actually today we only learned about the meeting problems, that there are 3 factors. If we need to calculate the sum of distance, we need to use the sum of speed times our time. And if we need to find a time, we need to use the sum of distance divided by sum of speed. And if we need to find the sum of speed, we need to use the sum of distance divided by time. So this is the end of today's lesson, and I would like to introduce you our short-term classes. There will be a simple examination before our short-term classes, and it is on the 17th of September, and the time is 8:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. You need to download Think Academy app and send me your student ID. And if you don't know how to download, you can find me at any time and I will provide you help. This is the end of today's lesson. Thank you for your listening and bye-bye.
拜拜，时间过得太快，又要说拜拜。书包书包背起来，和你说拜拜。你是我的好朋友，和你说拜拜。拜拜，时间过得太快，又要说拜拜。书包书包背起来，和你说拜拜。你是我的好朋友，和你说拜拜。拜拜，时间过得太快，又要说拜拜。小猴皮皮再见，和你说拜拜。下次我们再来，一起乐开怀。拜拜拜拜拜，
拜拜拜拜。